Okay, so let's look at solving using the quadratic formula. Okay, the key to this is when I start is it has to be set equal to 0. So I am going to add 5 to both sides. That gives me x squared minus 6x plus 5 is equal to 0. So my a is 1, b is negative 6, c is 5. So my x is equal to the opposite of b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4 times a times c, all divided by 2 times a. Okay, so the opposite of negative 6 is 6. If I evaluate the discriminant, that gives me 36 minus 20, so this equals 16. So this becomes plus or minus the square root of 16 divided by 2. So that's 6 plus or minus, and the square root of 16 is 4 over 2. So I have 6 plus 4 over 2, which is 5. 6 minus 4 over 2, which is 1. So these are my solutions. Okay, this is already in the appropriate form, so A is 3, B is negative 4, C is negative 5. So x is equal to the opposite of b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4 times a times c, all divided by 2 times a. So x is equal to 4 plus or minus the square root, and this is 16 plus 60, which is 76. So the square root is 76 divided by 6. All right, so here's what I'm going to have to do on this one. I am going to figure out my breakdown of 76. So 76 is divisible by 2, which gives me 38, which is also divisible by 2, which gives me 19. So this tells me that x is equal to 4 plus or minus 2 root 19 over 6. Okay, now I notice that each of these is divisible by 2. So this becomes 2 plus or minus root 19 over 3. Okay, on C, I'm going to have to distribute. So this becomes negative 5x squared plus 25x plus 5 is equal to x squared. Okay, I'm going to move everything. Well, actually, I think I'll just move this over here. So I will subtract x squared from both sides. With the quadratic formula, it doesn't make as much difference if the leading coefficient is positive or negative. So negative 6x squared plus 25x plus 5 is equal to 0. So A is negative 6, B is 25, C is 5. So x is equal to the opposite of b plus or minus the square root, oh, and I don't think I left my, of 25 squared minus 4 times negative 6 times 5, all divided by 2 times negative 6. Okay, so let's see what we've got here. So this gives me 25 plus or minus the square root, and this whole thing is 625 plus 120, which is 745. Oh, and that's a negative. Oops. Oh, all divided by negative 12. Well, this 745 can't be simplified. But now what I can do is I can leave it like it is. However, if I wanted to, I can just factor out a negative 1 from all of it. And that will give me 25 plus or minus the square root of 745 divided by 12. When I factor out the negative 1 here, then this becomes, instead of positive plus minus, becomes minus plus, but it doesn't matter. And then I factor out a negative here. Okay, now this one, there are a couple of ways that you can do it. If you look at the handwritten answers key, they do it differently than I do. I see no reason to mess with these fractions. So the first thing I'm going to do is clear them. I'm going to multiply this whole thing. The least common denominator is 15. So this becomes 15x squared minus 3x minus 5 is equal to 0. To me, this is going to be a whole lot easier. So here my A is 15, B is negative 3, C is negative 5. So x is equal to the opposite of B plus or minus the square root of B squared minus 4 times A times C, all divided by 2 times A. So this is 3 plus or minus the square root, and let's see what I come up with here. So that is 9 minus 4 times 15 times negative 5, which is 309, all divided by 30. Let's see, 309 is divisible by 3. And I think 103 is prime. So there's nothing I can do here. So this is just my answer. Now again, if you had stuck with the fractions, you would have seen that it's a little bit different, but it comes out the same. Okay, on number 4. A square television has a diagonal that is 32 inches long. How long is each side? Okay, so if I've got a rectangle here, actually it's a square, and the diagonal is 32. Well, since it's a square, I know that each of these are the same. Okay, so I know that x squared plus x squared is equal to 32 squared. So this gives me 2x squared is equal to 1024. Divide by 2. I get that x squared is equal to 512. Take the square root of both sides, and I get that x is positive or negative square root of 512. And how long is each side? It doesn't tell me about rounding. I know it can't be the negative one. So x is equal to the positive square root of 512. And if I do that in my calculator, I'm going to call it 22 point, let's just call it, it doesn't say, so I'm going to say 22.6 inches. Okay, so this clearly got caught off the page. All right, the cost equation, blah, blah, blah. C is the cost to produce X units. To find the number of units, use that to find the number of units that can be produced for a total cost of 12,000. What this question is saying is find X when C is equal to 12,000. So I'm going to put the cost on the right side. So I've got 0.5x squared plus 15x plus 5,000 is equal to 12,000. Subtract 12,000 from both sides, and I get 0.5x squared plus 15x minus 7,000 equals 0, 0. I really wanted to write some zeros. Okay, I'm not going to do anything except go straight to the quadratic formula. So A equals 0.5, B is 15, and C is negative 7,000. Oops. And I'm out of room. Okay. So that tells me that my X is equal to the opposite of B plus or minus the square root of B squared minus 4 times A times C, all divided by 2 times A. Okay, so X is equal to negative 15 plus or minus the square root. And if I evaluate all of this, that's 225 plus 14,000. So that gives me 14,225 all divided by 1. Okay, so that means negative 15 plus the square root of 14,225, or negative 15 minus the square root of 14,225. And this will be approximately plus the square root of 14,225, 104 0.27. Negative 15 minus is approximately negative 134.27. Okay, we know we can't have a negative number. So it says find the note for a total cost of $12,000. Okay, well, if it's a total cost of $12,000, you have to round this down. So X is going to be 104 units for cost to be less than or equal to 12,000. Okay, let's see. All right, let's go ahead. Oh, the numbering seems to have fixed itself now. Okay. All right, so multiply or divide. All right, we know we have to take each piece of it and we have to factor it. And then we're going to cancel out common factors. Okay, so this greatest common factor of 3x, and I'm left with x plus 1. 3x minus 2 can't be factored, so I'm just going to write it as 3x minus 2. This can be factored, and let's go ahead and see how to factor that just to make sure we get plenty of practice. So I'm looking for two numbers whose product is negative 24 and whose sum is 10, negative 6, negative 4. So this becomes 3x squared minus 6x minus 4x minus 8. I have to group, so I get 3x, x minus 2, minus 4. Uh-oh, what did I do wrong? Huh. Oh, this is what I did wrong. Well, stupid me. All right, they have to multiply to negative 24 and add to 10, so so this is negative 12 times 2, or 12 and negative 2, and 12 times plus negative 2 is 10. All right, so scratch that. Okay, so this becomes 3x squared plus 12x minus 2x minus 8. Okay, now we're back on track. Sorry about that. So that's 3x times x plus 4 minus 2 times x plus 4. Now you notice how I knew something was wrong here is because I wasn't getting the same binomial factor. I was having to force it, and that didn't work. Okay, this still all equals 0. So 3x minus 2 times x plus 4, and these are not equations. Okay, so this just becomes 3x minus 2, x plus 4. And then this one factors into x plus 4, x plus 1. Okay, so now all that's left to do is to cancel out any common factors. Okay, so I have an x plus 1, I have a 3x minus 2, and I have an x plus 4. So the only thing I have left is 3x, so that's 3x. Okay, let's quit here. We'll start a new one in a second.